Queenie Tan here, and welcome to another episode of Worldschooling with Queenie. Today we are in Marrakesh, Morocco, and we are making our way to our trip to our stay in the Sahara Desert. But this is just a transition. We flew in yesterday, and we're taking the next few days off to just really settle into the new place, because after we're in a different continent altogether, even though it's just like a 2-hour flight away. Today I would like to talk about emergency protocols. I find this whole thing kind of interesting about how when people travel, we tend to be fearful of things that go wrong. Okay, I mean, like, seriously, we are always afraid that, my friends would tell me things like, don't go to Mexico because it's dangerous, you're going to get shot. And people will say things like, don't go to places that are, like Muslim countries, because you have to cover up, But it's kind of, every place has its own, rules that we have to pick up and figure out and navigate. But there's this constant fear of something different, constant fear of change, which is why when people travel, we always wish them safe travels. But my last day in Spain, it's kind of interesting because I asked my Spanish teacher, my Espanol professor, how do you say safe travels in Spanish? And he said there's no such thing in Spanish, because in Spanish, they will say buen viaje, which means, have a good time. Because they don't assume that we're going to die when we travel or we're going to be unsafe when we travel, which is a really, really good point. And it really gets me thinking about why people always associate travels with danger. So today, I'm going to talk about emergency protocols, because even though we don't look out for danger when we travel, it's always good to have emergency protocols just in case. We can never be, too careful. So I'm going to share with you 3, scenarios that my boys and I share. We talk about very often. The first one is about, what to do when we get separated in like public transport, places. Another one is what we do when we get lost on the streets. And the third one would be, what to do if something happened to me, and me being a single parent in a foreign country, maybe in a place where I don't have friends, what to do then. Okay, so some of this may apply to you or may not. Just, try and figure out what you can take from this and how you can tweak it so that it's more familiar to you. But basically, the first thing is about, like in Japan, the train stations there, we use the public transport a lot because I can't drive, so we never really had a car. So we use, public transportation a lot. And in places like Japan, their public transport is so crowded during peak hours. And as much as we try to avoid peak hours, sometimes we can't really help it, especially when we're going out to meet friends on weekends, and weekends do get very crowded. Now, there will be times when we might get separated on, getting on or getting off of a train, because there's so many people, there's like massive human traffic, and everybody's pushing to get in and out, and it's very, very likely that we may get separated. And in which case, my boys and I have had this conversation where if we do get separated in getting in or out of a bus or a station, the best thing to do would be to get off. So whoever it is who's still stuck in the train, get off at the next station, right where, right at the door, and wait at the door of that train. So that, the rest of us will jump onto the next train and get off at the next station, and we will meet each other when we get off the door, because, we didn't really move around or anything like that. So that will really work well for bus rides, train rides, etc. Now, so if we get lost in getting in or out of a train, we'll meet at the next stop at the same door where we alight the train, okay, or the bus. Now, if we do get lost in a public space, like at a park or at a shopping mall, what we would do is we will always try to backtrack and meet at the last place where we remember interacting at. Okay, so if we're not interacting, it doesn't count. The last place that we sat down, or the last place that we interacted at. This is particularly helpful because there was a time when we met up with some friends in Japan, and one of us got lost, and we all backtracked to where we all met, and we found each other there. It's an amazing system that works if everybody in the family knows that system. So in a public place, when that is concerned, then it always helps. Another thing that we do a lot is that I've taught my boys to look out to remember my phone number, my WhatsApp number, and they usually have internet access. They usually do, because they all have their own mobile phones. So that would be a really good way to communicate. But in the event that the internet doesn't work and Wi-Fi sucks, as we have seen in different countries, then it will really help to look out for somebody in uniform, like somebody who works in the train stations or in the bus station, somebody who's wearing a uniform, or a middle-aged lady, to try to borrow their phones and to contact me. So that really helps as well, because my boys are slightly older now, and they're very, very streetwise when they're together, because they both have different strengths. And I think I've done enough work to help them understand that they're stronger as a team than separated. So if we ever get separated, I always hope that they're separated together and not alone. But nevertheless, I know my boys will cope really well, because we have been through we had this discussion several times already. Now, I'd like to talk about worst case scenarios, which I hope never happens. Now, I'm a single parent traveling with 2 boys, and touch wood, if anything happens to me and I have to be hospitalized and they're alone for a few days, we need to make sure that we have some contingency plans in place. And let me just show you what I have here, and I'm going to erase this. Okay. So I have a bag where I keep all our important things inside, and this is just a simple bag I ordered off Amazon. It has one of those RFID things, so that people can't steal our data. But I mean, it doesn't matter, it can be any bag, and this bag has everything that they need, and they know where to get it in case of an emergency. So all our passports are inside, and it's not just our current passports. I also have our passports, because we do have, our passports need to be renewed every 5 years, and some of our visas and stuff like that are in the previous passports. So we need to make sure that we travel with the past and the current ones, which is kind of stupid, but that's something that we don't have a choice with. All the SIM cards are in here, so if they're going to any country on their own, or if they need to make a phone call urgently, all the SIM cards are in this bag as well. I also have a spare credit card in this bag, so if there's any emergency and they need to buy a ticket to fly home or to fly anywhere, they can use this spare credit card. I also have about 200 euros and 200 US dollars in cash, because if I was hospitalized for any reason and they need to survive for a few days or a week, I need to make sure that there's enough cash in here for them to do that, because they can't take my credit card out, and they can't forge my signature, so so there's enough cash here. And I think that US dollars and euros are most widely accepted all over the world, so that's the reason why I make sure that there's always cash in here. I don't touch this cash, it's only for emergency. So and this is the bag that I keep very close to me at all times when we're traveling, airport and everything, because we cannot afford to lose this bag. But my boys know that everything they need is in here should there be an emergency. Now, as part of our emergency protocol, they will also contact one of my uncles, who's my elder son's godfather, and he is extremely well traveled, and he can get to them really quickly. So if there's any emergency and I'm hospitalized, they will contact him and they'll figure out what they're going to do next. They have his contact number, they have him on Messenger, and he has been, I've also spoken to him about this arrangement, so that he doesn't, think it's a prank when they have to call him. But yeah, so that's been set up as well. If there's an emergency, I'm in hospital, this will keep them going for a while. If they need to buy a ticket to fly anywhere, it is kind of tricky because some places are hard to fly out of or into without an adult. And especially, I think, in Morocco, they have a rule where children are not allowed to travel on their own without proper documentation and stuff. So I've also included a handwritten letter in here to say that, to authorize an adult to travel with them. So if, let's say, my uncle were to come here and take them home or wherever it is, he can fill in the blank spots, with his name and passport number and all that to authorize himself to take the boys out. So if you have emergency protocols like that, hopefully we don't need it, but if we do, it's all in here. My boys know it, and it's important for you to, if you're traveling alone with children, to also make sure that they understand what are some of the emergency protocols that you have in place. And I think if we do need it, then there's something in place, but hopefully we won't. We've been traveling for 3 years now, touch wood, knock on wood. We haven't needed to use emergency protocols, any of them yet. And we've been very careful when we're moving around, to make sure that we stay safe, we don't do anything stupid. Basically, it's not about being paranoid that something bad will happen to us, but it's about using our common cow sense to blend in and to adapt as much as we can. So I hope that this gives you a little bit more to think about if you are world schooling or you're considering world schooling and you're afraid about, all these emergencies that could happen. You can actually put emergency protocols in place so that you can travel safe. Now, another thing that we do also when we travel is I usually travel to a place where I have to speak at. So there will be conference organizers there who can look out for my boys in the event that anything happens. I also have some really amazing friends who can step in to help out, if they're close by. Another thing that I also am very careful is when we stay with a host, I always make sure that that host is a really good host. One of those hosts who will go out of their way to help us. So far, we have been really lucky with that, where we have amazing hosts who would do things that we would never have asked for, just to make sure we are more, to make sure that we are well taken care of and that we are not panicking and that we are well catered to. When I was in Prague, my wallet got stolen by a child. I'm pretty sure of that. And it was, I had to make a police report in 24 hours and there was no interpreter and I don't speak any of their local languages. So my host actually brought me to the police station and he did his best, to translate for me. And he even searched up police stations where they're more likely to speak some English. So that was really, really helpful. I didn't expect that of him at all. But, the fact that he has done that for me was absolutely amazing. So we've had really, really good luck with I'm very grateful. I don't believe in luck. I'm very grateful that we've had really good hosts. I'm very picky with choosing my hosts, especially since I'm traveling alone with my boys. But I always feel that, one of the biggest things that has kept us safe is using some proper cow sense, to not take risks that comes with that comes with situations that we cannot afford to be in. And we also make sure that particularly me, I keep my belief systems in check because I believe in the law of attraction and that if you believe you're going to get in trouble, you will definitely get in trouble. But if you believe that everything will be fine, it will work out well, you've done your preparation enough, and that you are sensible and sensitive to the environment and the people around you, then everything else will be fine. Okay, so I hope that helps, and see you again in the next episode. I'm going to be shooting a video when I get to the Sahara Desert and us camping in tents. I'm going to show you what that's going to look like, so stay tuned. Thanks.